A very warm welcome to all the MSc final year biochemistry students. Today we are going to study the topic electrolytes and acid-base balance. As we all know that the cells of the body functions normally only when they are bathed in extracellular fluid with relatively constant concentration of electrolytes and other solutes, which is maintained very precisely by both the kidneys. The extracellular fluid sodium concentration and osmolarity are regulated by the amount of extracellular water, which is controlled very precisely by the fluid intake, which is determined by the thirst, and the renal excretion of water, which is controlled by the glomerular filtration and tubular reabsorption. So with this introduction, let us briefly recapitulate the morphology of the kidney and the basic morphology of a nephron. So as you can see that kidney is a bean-shaped organ and it has basically two regions. The outer region is called as the cortex and the inner region is called as the medulla. Taking this cross section, you can see a nephron. Basically, a nephron consists of a Bowman's capsule having glomerulus. The portion attached to the Bowman's capsule is called as the proximal convoluted tubule or PCT or PT, and it lies in the cortical region. Similarly, the next loop region is called as the loop of Henle, having a descending limb and an ascending limb. They lie in the medullary region, which is a highly concentrated region, and the ending part, that is called as the distal convoluted tubule, as well as the collecting duct, they rise in the cortical region. So this is the basic morphology of the nephron. So now coming down to the physiology of the urine formation. So excretion of dilute urine. When there is excess water in the body and fluid osmolarity is reduced, the kidneys can excrete urine with an osmolarity as low as 50 milliosmolar per liter, which is about 1/6 the osmolarity of normal ECF, and volume as much as 20 liters per day. However, when there is a water deficit, the kidneys can excrete urine with a concentration of 1200 to 1400 milliosmolar per liter. Thus, the kidneys can regulate water excretion independently of solute excretion, which is necessary for survival, especially when fluid intake is limited. So there is a hormone called antidiuretic hormone, which plays a very critical role in the concentration of urine. So antidiuretic hormone controls urine concentration. A powerful feedback system operates that regulate plasma osmolarity and sodium concentration at neurological level by altering renal excretion of water independently of the rate of solute excretion by the hormone called antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin. An increase in fluid osmolarity causes special nerve cells called osmoreceptors near anterior hypothalamus, which is adjacent to the supraoptic nuclei, to shrink. They send the nerve signals to the posterior pituitary gland to secrete ADH, which is stored in the secretory granules in the nerve endings. ADH enters the bloodstream and then transported to the kidneys, where it increases the water permeability of the late distal tubules and cortical collecting duct tubules and medullary collecting ducts. This permits large amount of water to be reabsorbed and decreases urine volume, but does not markedly alter the rate of excretion of the solutes. When there is excess water in the body and ECF osmolarity is reduced, the secretion of ADH by the posterior pituitary decreases, thereby reducing the permeability of the distal tubules and collecting ducts to water, and causes large amount of dilute urine to be excreted. So here you can see in this flow chart, whenever there is a water deficit, extracellular osmolarity increases, the osmoreceptors, they become active. Then they signal the ADH secretion by the posterior pituitary. The plasma ADH level increases. The water permeability in distal tubules and collecting duct increases. Water reabsorption increases, and hence water excretion decreases. This negatively regulates the water deficit. So what are the basic mechanisms of excreting a dilute urine? So here in this left panel, you can see that whenever there is a water diuresis in human after ingestion of 1 liter of water. After water ingestion, urine volume increases. You can see that the urine volume it increases here, and the total the urine osmolarity decreases, and the total amount of solute remains relatively constant. Thus the plasma osmolarity is maintained. So what is the basic mechanism for this? Here in the right panel you can see that the entire mechanism by which the osmolarity is controlled during the ingestion of large amount of waters. So whenever the glomerular filtrate is initially formed, its osmolarity is about the same as that of the plasma, 300 milliosmolar per liter. Here you can see that the plasma osmolarity in the PCT is almost 300 milliosmolar, which is equivalent to that of the ECF. To excrete excess water, it is necessary to dilute the filtrate as it passes along the tubule by reabsorbing solutes to a greater extent than water. So what happens in the proximal convoluted tubule? In the PCT, fluid remains isoosmotic to the plasma with an osmolarity of about 300 milliosmolar per liter. As it passes down the descending limb of the loop of Henle, water is reabsorbed by osmosis, and the tubular fluid attains equilibrium with the surrounding interstitial fluid of the renal medulla, which is very hypertonic. So thus the tubular fluid becomes concentrated as it flows into the inner medulla. Inner medulla, this region is always hypertonic. So urine always become hypertonic in any of these case while entering the medullary region. So while passing through the ascending limb of the loop of Henle here, in the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, especially in the thick segment, sodium, potassium and chloride are avidly reabsorbed, while this region is impermeable to water even in the presence of large amount of ADH. So this region doesn't reabsorb water whether ADH is present or absent. Therefore, the tubular fluid becomes more dilute as it flows up the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, with the osmolarity decreasing to about 100 milliosmolar. Thus, in the healthy kidneys, regardless of whether ADH is present or absent, fluid leaving the ascending limb of the loop of Henle and early distal tubular segment is always hypoosmotic, with an osmolarity of about 1/3 of the osmolarity of the plasma here, 100 milliosmolar. So in the distal and collecting tubule, DCT, in the late distal convoluted tubule and cortical collecting duct and collecting duct, there is additional reabsorption of NaCl. Here you can see that the NaCl is now getting reabsorbed. In the absence of ADH, this portion of the tubule is also impermeable to water, and the additional reabsorption of solute causes the tubular fluid to become even more dilute, decreasing the osmolarity to as low as 50 milliosmolar per liter. So as you can see that during the excess of water, the ADH secretion is decreased, and hence these portions become impermeable to water while the solutes are reabsorbed. Hence the urine becomes less osmolar, that is around 50 milliosmolar per liter. So excretion of concentrated urine. When there is water deficit in the body, the kidneys form concentrated urine by continuing to excrete solutes while increasing water reabsorption and decreasing the volume of urine formed. The human kidneys can produce a maximum urine concentration of 1200 to 1400 milliosmolar per liter, which is about 4 to 5 times the osmolarity of plasma. So what are the requirements of excreting a concentrated urine? The basic requirements of forming a concentrated urines are: first, a high level of ADH, which increases the permeability of the distal tubules and collecting ducts to water, thereby allowing water reabsorption. And second point is a high osmolarity of the renal medullary interstitial. This is a very important point because if there is no high concentration, the fluid, the glomerular filtrate will not be concentrated, so which provides an osmotic gradient of 200 milliosmolar necessary for water reabsorption in presence of high level of ADH. The renal medullary interstitium surrounding the collecting duct is normally hyperosmotic, so when ADH levels are high, water moves through the tubular membrane by osmosis into the renal interstitium, and from there it is carried away by vasa recta into the blood. Renal medullary interstitium fluid becomes hyperosmotic by counter current mechanism, which depends upon the special anatomical arrangement of the loop of Henle and vasa recta when they run parallel to each other into the medulla before returning to the renal cortex. So what is the counter current mechanism? The osmolarity of interstitial fluid is almost all parts of the body is about 300 milliosmolar per liter, which is similar to the plasma osmolarity, but the osmolarity of the interstitial fluid in the medulla of the kidney is about 1200 to 1400 milliosmolar per liter. The major factors for this are active transport of sodium ions and co-transport of potassium and chloride and other ions out of the thick portion of the ascending limb of the loop of Henle into the medullary interstitium. Active transport of ions from the collecting duct into the medullary interstitium facilitated diffusion of urea from the inner medullary collecting duct into the medullary interstitium, and diffusion of only small amounts of water from the medullary tubules into the medullary interstitium. The repetitive reabsorption of NaCl by the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle and continued inflow of NaCl from the PCT into the loop of Henle is called the counter current multiplier. The sodium chloride reabsorbed from the ascending limb of the loop of Henle keeps adding to the newly arrived NaCl, thus multiplying its concentration in the medullary interstitium. In presence of high concentration of ADH, the cortical collecting tubule becomes highly permeable to water, so large amounts of water are reabsorbed from the tubule into the cortex interstitium, where it is swept away by the rapidly flowing peritubular capillaries in medulla by vasa recta into the venous blood. Countercurrent mechanism continued. The fact that large amount of water are reabsorbed into the cortex rather than into the renal medulla helps to preserve the high medullary interstitial fluid osmolarity. Thus, the fluid at the end of the collecting duct has essentially the same osmolarity as the interstitial fluid of the renal medulla, about 1200 milliosmolar per liter. Therefore, by reabsorbing as much water as possible, the kidneys form highly concentrated urine, excreting normal amounts of solute in the urine while adding water back to the extracellular fluid and compensating for the deficits of the body water. Okay. So one very important factor for increasing the renal medullary interstitial concentration is the urea. Urea contributes to the hyperosmotic renal medullary interstitium and formation of concentrated urine. Urea contributes to about 40 to 50% of the osmolarity, that is 500 to 600 milliosmolar per liter of the renal medullary interstitial, and unlike NaCl, urea is passively reabsorbed from the tubule. When there is water deficit and blood concentration of ADH is high, large amount of urea are passively reabsorbed from the inner medullary collecting duct into the interstitium. In the proximal convoluted tubule, 40 to 50% of the filtered urea is reabsorbed, but even then its concentration increases because urea is not as permeable as water. Some passive secretion of urea into the thin limb of the loop of Henle, that is in the descending limb. Here the urea is 50% urea is reabsorbed, but still the urea concentration is increased because water is reabsorbed at a higher rate than urea, and then there is a passive secretion of urea in this portion by the transporter called as UTA2. As water flows up the ascending limb of the loop of Henle into the distal and cortical collecting tubule, little urea is reabsorbed because these segments are impermeable to urea. So these segments are impermeable to urea. Urea is not reabsorbed in this portion because the segments are impermeable to urea. In the presence of high concentration of ADH, water is reabsorbed rapidly from the cortical collecting tubule and the urea concentration increases rapidly because urea is not very permeable in this part of the tubule. So in this portion water is reabsorbed but urea is not reabsorbed, hence the urea concentration keeps on increasing. So but when it comes in the medullary region of the collecting duct, then urea is reabsorbed and this is increased. So this urea is reabsorbed in the loop of Henle from the collecting duct, in the medullary collecting duct. So as the tubular fluid flows into the inner medullary collecting duct, still more water reabsorption takes place, causing even higher concentration of urea in the fluid. This higher concentration of urea in the tubular fluid of the inner medullary collecting duct causes urea to diffuse out of the tubule into the renal interstitial fluid, causing greatly facilitated by urea transporter UTA1 and UTA3. One of these urea transporters, UTA3 is activated by ADH, increasing transport of urea out of the inner medullary collecting duct even when ADH levels are elevated. The simultaneous movement of water and urea out of the inner medullary collecting duct maintains a high concentration of urea in the tubular fluid and even in the urine, even though urea is being reabsorbed. So the most important factor in the entire electrolyte maintenance is called as thirst. So what is the importance of thirst? The kidneys minimize fluid loss during water deficits through the osmoreceptor ADH feedback system. Although adequate fluid intake, however, is necessary to counterbalance whatever fluid loss does occur through sweating, breathing, and through the GI tract, which is regulated by thirst mechanism. When the sodium concentration increases only about 2 milliequivalent above normal in the cerebrospinal fluid in the third ventricle, the thirst mechanism is activated, causing a desire to drink water called as the threshold for drinking. The same area called as the antroventral region of the third ventricle, that is AV3V region, also promotes ADH release in addition to thirst, also called as the thirst center. Lesion of the AV3V region causes multiple deficits in the control of ADH secretion, osmolarity, thirst, sodium appetite, and blood pressure. In the vicinity of the AV3V region and the supraoptic nuclei are neuronal cells that are excited by slight increase in the osmolarity, causes osmoreceptors that send nerve signals to the supraoptic nuclei to control the secretion of ADH and induce thirst. Thus, in a healthy person, the osmoreceptor, ADH, and the thirst mechanism work in parallel to precisely regulate extracellular fluid osmolarity and sodium concentration despite the constant challenges of dehydration. Thank you so much.